friends, welcome back to my channel Treasure Builders with Shola Morunfolu. We are still on our educational adventure. We are looking at developmental milestones in children in the early years, and in the last episode we looked at cognitive development of children 7 to 12 months. In this episode we'll be looking at cognitive development as well as red flags in children 12 months to 18 months. Some of the major takeaways from the last episode is the fact that at that age, that is between 7 and 12 months, children are able to, how do I put it, they're able to communicate their like and their dislikes using various methods. So in this, and still building on that fact, we are looking at the developmental milestones to watch out for in children 12 months to 18 months. And one of the major things that we need to note in this age group is that they can identify members of their family in pictures. In the last episode, they can identify their mother's smell, the face, and things like that. But as they grow older, between these 12 and 18 months, they can recognize not only their mothers, but other members of their family, even when they see them in pictures, not necessarily when they see them physically. Then another thing is that they enjoy what we call the cause and effect relationship. Now they know that certain actions will bring about certain effects because their brain is already in the process, is already at the stage of processing this information. And at this point, it is important that we introduce some reward system, some disciplinary measures, so that when a child does certain things, he or she knows that there are always effects for whatever action that he or she takes, and it could be positive or it could be negative. So it's important to introduce disciplinary measures even at this point in time. Some might argue that it's too early to begin to discipline children, but there are age-appropriate disciplinary measures even for children which can be used. It's a building process, and the earlier we get them to stop some certain behaviors, the better for us and for them in future. Also, they are able to make clear choices between alternatives. They know what they want. They can decide, I want to put on a blue dress instead of a green dress. They can choose what other color that meets their fancy. They can decide on a particular food that they want to eat, so they can choose whatever they want even at this point. And apart from that, their problem-solving skills begins. They can begin to solve problems. They can categorize objects and things based on any parameter that they are given. It could be in form of color. It could be in form of objects or things used in the home. So they begin to solve problems. They know what certain things are used for and how to use them. And apart from this, they are now able to remember events and situations that have happened before. They are no longer at the stage of object permanence, where we talked about object permanence, that now I know that even when things are taken away from them, it's not as if those things don't exist again. They still exist. So this process of object permanence has now even gone to another level where they can recall previous actions and previous places that they have visited. Now let's take a look at the red flags to watch out for in this age group. One of the major red flags that we need to watch out for is when a child at this age still continues using a particular method, a repetitive method in solving problems. It is expected that when a child tries one method and it doesn't give the required result, the child should move to another method. The child should try and use the trial and error method. But when we still find a child still using a repetitive method, still using the same method to achieve a particular thing, then it's a source of concern, it's a red flag, and it could be a sign of a learning or intellectual disorder. Another thing is when a child does not anticipate the effects of certain actions that he or she carries out. After building a set of building blocks, and the child now decides to throw something at it and dismantles it. The child doesn't anticipate that by doing that, he or she is destroying what he has built earlier on. When a child doesn't anticipate it, it's a red flag also, because it is expected that at this age, the child should anticipate the results. We talked about them having this cause and effect, understanding cause and effect relationship. So if they are not able to know that if I throw this ball at these building blocks, there's a tendency that it's going to dismantle it and it's going to be a wasted effort. So if a child is unable to think and reason in that area, it's also a red flag. It's a source of concern. Also, when we find children that are still persistent in mouthing objects, they still put things to the mouth, we know it's part of their developmental milestones that they need to take objects to mouth, but it has a level where this has to stop. So between 12 and 18 months, it's not expected that a child will still be mouthing objects. So when this continues, then it's a red flag also. It could be a sign of intellectual disability as well. Another thing we need to watch out for is when a child does not imitate body on a doll. In my part of the country where I come from, we find women backing babies, and you find out that most female children always want to back their doll. They want to imitate the physical action that they see. They want to imitate it on the doll. They want to hug the doll. They want to cuddle the dog, just like mothers will do even for the babies. When we find a child not doing this, the child is not imitating such actions on a doll. When the child has a doll, the child does not hug the doll, the child does not cuddle or even places a kiss on the forehead or something, it's also a red flag, because it is expected that they want to imitate and carry out actions that they see in physically being done, want to carry it out on the doll. So if this is not happening, it's a sign of intellectual disability on the part of the child, and it's a red flag. Then the toys that children play with. Different toys have different functions. So when a child does not engage in functional play, the child does not use the toy for the way it's for what it is actually meant for, it's a red flag. For instance, we know that the ball is meant for throwing, kicking, and juggling and whatever. And if we now find a child that uses the ball for other means, or uses the ball in another way apart from what the ball is actually meant to do, it's also a source of concern. It's a red flag. It's telling us that the child is not using toys in functional play. The child lacks functional play. Now, another thing that might interest us is when children don't show interest in other children. It's an exploratory stage for them. It's a time when they ought to play mixed with their peers. And now we find that some children, they like being on their own. They don't want to interact with other children. They just stay on their own. It's a source of concern. It could be a sign of autism or any other behavioral disorder. So we need to take the child even for an investigation early so that intervention can begin. So it will help the child later in life. Then we have some children that are very impatient. They have extreme difficulty waiting for a desired item. They want something and somebody else is using it. They don't mind just taking it from the person. They don't like taking turns. Once they want something, they want it immediately, irrespective of the fact that somebody is using that particular object. And lastly, we see some children are very rigid, especially when it comes to food, when it comes to clothing, as well as some routine tasks. For instance, in the area of food, we have some children, we might say, they are choosy, but it has gone beyond being choosy in the area of food. They are very rigid. If you are giving them cornflakes, for instance, there are different brands of cornflakes or different brands. They will still insist on a particular brand. You give them anything outside that brand, they will not take it. That's in the area of food. Then we also have some in the area of clothing. They can decide that it's just this particular dress, this particular trousers, this particular shirt that I want to put on. So they are so rigid. They don't want to explore other areas. They don't want to explore other things. So when we find children behaving in this manner, it's a source of concern. It could be a sign of autism. So when we notice some of these red flags in our children, as parents and as caregivers, it is important that we seek professional help very early, so that these red flags will not result into bigger learning challenges in future. So at this point, we'll come to the end of today's episode, cognitive development in children 12 to 18 months, and there are red flags to watch out for too. Once again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, share and subscribe if you are yet to do. Thank you once again for watching.